Coming up on Cogeco News, tightening the grip on what gets in and out of Canada and who gets in and out of Canada. Banding together in a very tough time for restaurants, and the Battalion will pick first in the OHL draft. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to this Wednesday edition of Cogeco News. I am Greg Estabrooks. Distancing, as in social distancing, is the new norm as Canadians are urged to keep their distance from others to flatten the COVID-19 curve. Drastic measures were announced by the province on Tuesday, which restrict restaurants to takeout and delivery only. And that, of course, is a dilemma for that big industry. Clark Heipel has a story on the local scope.
It's called Distance Socially, Eat Locally. It's a new public group on Facebook encouraging area residents to continue to support local restaurants amid new rules announced by the province on Tuesday. Rules which prohibit the congregation of people in restaurants and bars. Zane Smith is the admin of that new Facebook group.
All these restaurants around all of North Bay and south of North Bay and the whole entire area really are all friends of mine. I am a food wholesale distributor, so I have a financial interest in their success as well. But they are our friends and considered family in some aspects. And it's a tough thing that came on very, very quickly. The announcement by the Ford government to limit the seating in restaurants is a big blow to almost all of them. You know, there's they all have sit-down places, and people going out for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It's a very social thing, and you know, without that, it's going to make it very hard on the restaurants and their staff.
One of those local restaurants affected is the Twigs on Fraser.
It's been very difficult just having to make those hard decisions to, cut back hours, obviously, because we're not running at normal capacity is really difficult. But we are still completely open. We have not reduced our menu whatsoever. It just is takeout only. So you can still come into the stores. You just have to take it to go. You can't sit down in the dining room at all. Or luckily for our two North Bay locations on Fraser and McEwen, we have drive-thrus. So we are really encouraging people to come out and use our drive-thru or call ahead. We have an online ordering app, so there's lots of options for people.
And for Zane to step up and kind of be the leader to say support local, that's got to be a big boost in not just finance but confidence.
It's very, very sweet. It is so nice to see support that way. Personally, we've known Zane for years. He is our milk distributor as well. And so it's very encouraging and just absolutely lovely to have people in the community that are supporting and trying to make sure that people are aware of businesses that are still trying to make a go of it, which is really nice.
If you're going into one of those places, post it so all your friends see it, that this is where you're getting your food from. And there's a lot of restaurants on there now, but you can add more and make sure everybody's aware that you're out there supporting. It's going to be tough on everybody. Everybody's going to be at home. There's going to be some people that are home that aren't working. So we're not expecting everybody to go out every night and eat at restaurants. But if you are going to go out, make sure you support those restaurants that you would normally support at this time.
The vice on Canadian activities and Canadian society, for that matter, continues to tighten daily because of the crisis. Prime Minister Trudeau said on Wednesday, Canada and the U.S. have agreed to temporarily restrict all non-essential travel across the border. This is near Sarnia, this footage. This affects recreation and tourism. Canadians are encouraged to stay home and not to visit neighbors unless they absolutely have to. Essential travel will continue, says Justin Trudeau. Anthony Rota unavailable for a phone call on this day. We hope to hear from him tomorrow morning. Business as usual for the North Bay Police Service, despite the upheaval caused by the pandemic. Not only that, there are, believe it or not, new fraud scams already out there connected to the COVID-19 breakout.
We're still, obviously our front line is still answering calls. I've looked at the statistics from last year to this year. We're actually busier in the last week this year than we were last year. Our officers continue to answer calls, but they're obviously answering these calls with the health of the people that they're responding to, and our officers need to remain healthy as well. So we have taken certain steps. Our lobby is closed off unless it's an absolute emergency to come in. We need to interview people, obviously, so our building's open for that, but we're asking if it's a non-emergency thing, we don't need to get it done right away. Let's see where this takes us in a couple weeks. For instance, a criminal record check, if it's not required right away, then let's put that off for now.
Scams, this is still Fraud Awareness Month, and that's not going to change virus or no virus. Anything related to COVID-19 that you've had to deal with? And I know you have some tips for folks because they're going to be basically homebodies if they're following procedure. They have more time to do some research.
That's right. So the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, they're our leaders here in Canada. They were able to identify some certain scams that were coming out as of last week. We haven't seen any of this in North Bay or Callander. However, in liaising with the fraud center, we know that there was a phishing site identified in Canada that had the Red Cross down. They were looking for people to log on and make donations, but it was not a legitimate site. So we really have to be vigilant about who we're giving our money to. It just means taking a few minutes and researching that. And as you mentioned, research, we have more time to do that now. So if you are going to join in on Fraud Prevention Month, the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre has an excellent website to educate your choices, see what kind of scams are happening out there. As well, the Competition Bureau of Canada, they have an online little black book of scams that goes through and identifies and explains and gives prevention tips on all the major scams that are hitting Canadians.
The federal government is planning on supplying Canadians with $82 billion in various funding methods to try to alleviate the financial pain, and it is significant, dealing with this health crisis. North Bay Chamber Chief Peter Chirico is very happy that governments are assisting, but he also says it's about everyone here pulling together as well.
Certainly locally, with the shutdown of restaurants, etc., we're encouraged by some of the joining together that we're seeing by the restaurant groups to make sure that people are shopping locally and utilizing their services where they wouldn't be in normal cases. It's hardship for their employees, it's hardship for their businesses, and it's encouraging to note that this morning some packages are being developed by the federal government and the provincial government on how they are going to help business during this period of uncertainty, and how long it's going to last, nobody knows at this point, but certainly the more we work together, the better it's going to be for all of us.
You were at the major news conference at City Hall. Your brother was there for the health side of it. Obviously, that is number one. But you were there to, I guess, address business concerns and address people in the business community, which is a big part of this town. And you have to let them know what you think they can do to kind of survive, I guess. Is that fair to say?
That's exactly what it is. The small business sector employs almost 60% of all employees in Canada. So it is a very major sector of our economy that is going to be impacted by this COVID-19 and some of the issues that are surrounding it. Certainly nobody likes to see slowdowns, nobody likes to see borders crossed, nobody likes to see tourism, etc. But it is necessary in this period, as explained by the health professionals very well yesterday. It is real, it's something that we have to be aware of, but there's also going to be a recovery. And that's where the business sector is going to come in. How the government level, the various levels of the government help those sectors on the recovery, that's going to be key. But again, I'm encouraged what we see so far, and that the government, all levels of governments, are rallying behind it to support it as we come out of this, because we will come out of it.
A couple of quick thoughts here. Obviously, you want people to still shop and go patronize businesses, but yet at the same time, everybody's being told to stay home. How do you balance that?
Well, I think it's just being aware, being informed, and being wise about what you're doing. Our grocery stores are still open, our liquor stores are still open to a certain degree, and certainly, again, on that side, our business sector taking care of senior citizens by allowing certain hours, et cetera. Those are things that a caring community does. In North Bay, in this entire district, all of those grocery stores, et cetera, that are reaching out to our senior citizens, the vulnerable populations, and helping them, we certainly encourage it and we applaud them, because that is something that our community does.
Finally, there's been a lot of panic buying and a lot of criticism for those who have been panic buying. Now, I know that some grocery stores are starting to put limits on purchases. I mean, overdue in your opinion?
It's that one. When there's a sale to be made, you make the sale, but at the same time, people have to really take a look at what they're buying and why they're buying it. The panic buying always ensues when there's a disaster. I mean, this is eerily quiet, similar to when we had a power outage, back in the early 2000s.
In less than a week, the stock markets are and continue to take a beating. We spoke to Charles Elliott of Edward Jones Investments last Friday. We went to see him on Friday. We decided not to use that interview because it was changing so quickly, so that interview indeed wasn't used. When I attempted to interview Elliott in person on Tuesday, it had to be over the phone because the public is not allowed to go to his office, just employees, because of the pandemic. Here's what the veteran finance man had to say on the phone about this ever-evolving financial crisis.
Definitely. I mean, what I'm telling them is not to panic, stay invested. We will get over this. The markets will come back. Make sure your asset allocation is in line, that your risk tolerances are where they should be, that you're not necessarily overexposed or underexposed, and just to stick with it. If you don't need the cash right now and it's a long-term investment, you can ride it out.
But just how long will that ride last? In a related note, both provincial and federal governments have been announcing a lot of emergency funding to try to help Canadians survive this situation.
I think what they're throwing everything they have at it right now. Whether it's enough to make a difference is, we still have to wait and see. I think that the impact of shutting down, like you said, of the world for a period of time is going to have ramifications, and there's only so much fiscal and monetary policy that you can throw at it. But the government needs to keep the economy on lifeline until we get through this. Once we get through this, then we can get back to normal. What that normal is that's what the uncertainty is, because people don't really know how long this is going to last, how severe this is going to be. What are the ramifications? So that's an unknown right now, and that's what makes people nervous and scared and start to panic. So I think we just need to stay calm as much as we can through this.
Break time has arrived here on Cogeco News. When we come back, different kind of impact of COVID-19, that after this. Welcome back, everybody. Events big and small scale are being canceled everywhere, and the impact is being felt by everyone of all ages. The Golden Age Center has been a community hub for almost 60 years, and now it too has to close its doors for the time being for seniors and senior activities for maybe as much as 3 weeks.
Well, it's pretty hard to keep track of everybody because we're not here all the time. Now we've closed the doors, as you say, and we just have to encourage them to keep busy and interact with their families, do whatever they can to stay in touch with people and, keep busy.
Your thoughts about the entertainment that now isn't there? There's no shuffleboard, there's no bingo, there's no darts, there's no anything right now. A huge part of this establishment and the interaction that people need has been cut away. It's got to be stressful.
It is very stressful for our seniors, yes. Like I say, they have to find something else to do, stay in touch with their families, I don't know, go on the internet, play cards, whatever.
What kind of things usually go on here under normal circumstances?
We have shuffleboard, we have carpet bowling, we have line dancing at night, we have a gentleman come in to teach ballroom dancing. We have monthly meetings here, board meeting, business meeting with all our members. Many events going on every day. Like we've got stuff going on every day of the week.
Are you taking questions from people about what's going on and what's going to go on? And a lot of questions you can't answer right now either, can you?
Right, exactly. Our receptionist is here only for, as of yesterday and today. After that, we're not going to have any receptionists, so people wouldn't be able to come and go at all.
Tough times everywhere. When we come back, Clark Heipel will have a weather update for you right after this.
Weather is brought to you by Canadore College. Great things happen here.
Welcome back to Cogeco News. I'm Clark Heipel here at Kinsman Beach Park. I am here for your 5-day weather forecast brought to you by Canadore College. We had a little bit of sun this morning, however, overcast skies have set in for this afternoon, the last full day of winter. Given the global events over the past several weeks, certainly easy to lose sight of the change in season. Tomorrow is the first day of spring, and we're going to have spring-like conditions tomorrow. 7 degrees for the high with a mix of sun and cloud, but then winter, the conditions of winter, returns on Friday with a cold low nearing minus 20. Let's take a look at the 5-day forecast brought to you by Canadore College. Heading overnight on this Wednesday night, low of minus 5, partly cloudy skies. There is going to be a wind chill overnight. On Thursday, the first day of spring, a spring-like day, mix of sun and cloud, high of 7 degrees. And we go to a low of +1 with rain overnight on Thursday night.
Friday now, high +1 with snow and wind as well as a low pressure system moves in. Low on Friday night, -18. On the weekend now, we're going to have sunny skies for the weekend, the 21st of March, high -5 with sun on Saturday and a low of -15 with clear skies. Sunday now, high 0, low -10 with sun. And that completes our weather picture for this Wednesday. Turning the page back to the almanac on Tuesday, we had a high of 3 and a low of -8. The normals for this time of March, the last day of winter. Normal high is +1, the normal low is -8. Well, there you have it. There is your 5-day weather picture. Do stay tuned as Greg Esterbrooks has your sportscast. Big news in the CHL as the Ontario Hockey League regular season has been canceled. Greg Esterbrooks will have your sports update right after this.
Sports is brought to you by Tag Construction for all your construction needs.
Welcome back, everybody. The North Bay Battalion will indeed have the first pick in the OHL draft, which is just 17 days away. Also, the U18 draft for players who didn't get drafted last year, and almost as important as the priority selection, the import draft in June. That's happening because, as expected, the Ontario Hockey League, like the Quebec League before it and the Western League, they have canceled the regular season. Some thoughts now from OHL Tonight host Terry Doyle.
Well, hi, Greg. And yes, the announcement really does not come as any surprise. We saw the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League on Tuesday announce their regular season was going to be canceled, and then wait and see what happens with the playoffs. And usually all of the three Canadian hockey leagues follow suit in terms of really who does it first, who does it next. But they usually follow a pretty similar blueprint. The Ontario Hockey League's Board of Governors meeting here on Wednesday to decide that indeed the regular season is done. And as we saw, the teams had already sent players home, and to really ramp things up at this point was going to be very difficult, especially with the uncertainty that we're dealing with right now. Some teams had as many as 7 games remaining. Most teams were around that 5 games remaining standpoint, but there was even some. Mississauga, for example, had played 61 games in the regular season.
Thank you, Terry. As for the 16 teams waiting for the playoffs and the playoff dates, very much up in the air. So the Battalion will have the first pick in all 3 junior drafts this year. Most importantly, the OHL priority selection coming in early April. The hockey world a buzz with Adam Fantilli talk. He is the top-ranked player. Can the Battalion do anything else but select him? We don't know. So as they say, the Battalion are sitting in the catbird seat right now. The first pick in 3 drafts. The first one and the biggest one comes in just over 2 weeks with the OHL draft. Adam Fantilli, by far the #1 ranked player, is supposed to be the first player picked. Now, he has been talking a lot to the NCAA. There is speculation he may not report to a small market team, but that at this point is speculation, and Dennis will not go there.
Well, we have some meetings lined up with not just him, a lot of players moving forward, and you know, there's some creativity that you're going to have now given the restrictions. But you know, we're working just as we would regularly, and you know, we're optimistic that we're going to get a great player here. Well, I'm not, you know, really focused on what's going to happen or what's not going to happen. We're doing our job, and you know, we're going through our interview process, and we're pitching our program no differently than we would for any program. And I think what's exciting here is we have a lot to look forward to, and a lot that we can build around.
As well, you have the first pick in the import draft. How have you been able to assess talent? Do you have somebody in Europe that has eyeballed players over the winter?
Well, I mean, I think from my own personal background, I spent 5 years overseas. I still do have a lot of contact over there from agents, from coaches to guys still playing in the various leagues. So definitely been doing a ton of prospecting. It is unfortunate with the under-18 being canceled this year. It would have been a great opportunity to see and potentially meet some of the top players for that draft. But as with everything, we live in a technological world, and we're able to get a lot of stuff done.
On Kata. Drop pass, shot.
There'll be a lot to talk about, of course, with the Battalion. They are going to provide season ticket holders with the option to apply for credit for 4 games that were lost this year. They can exercise an option to get credit for 4 games next year. For every 2 season tickets they renew, they will also get 3 free single game tickets for early in the season. And otherwise, they can offer a refund as well. A lot of that's going to play out in who's going to buy tickets, depending on what happens over the next 2 weeks, don't you think? That is it for news, weather, and sports for this Wednesday. We'll have more Cogeco news and a complete update on COVID-19 on Thursday. See you then.